Yeah, so 2024, the word from the Lord was sent ones. Really just this idea of getting the church to think more about its movement out there rather than its gatherings in here, And I just wanted people to realize that wherever they're at in their life, they can be a sent one. It is not just reserved for those who get on ships and travel to different cities around the world, but it is those for a home with their kids. It's those who go into an office. It's those who are in education. To whenever they go there to realize I am a sent one, that word being apostle, I am an apostle, an ambassador, a saint of the Lord when I arrive in this workplace, in this classroom, in this family. The Lord, when I was praying for it, really, I felt like he just said, move, like that, move. And I was like, okay, that feels like really aggressive to have as a title. But really, when I thought about it, it's a reminder of who we are. We are sent ones, apostles. We got to get out there. We actually got to be sent. To be sent, I actually have to move. And Romans 10:9 talks about how can someone believe if they've not heard, and how can someone hear unless they've had preached to them, and how can someone preach unless they have been sent? So we have got to get back to that beginning, mobilizing the church once again. I think is really crucial in this time.
Yeah, how did it come? How did your heart even
Yeah.
get captured for Royal Holloway as well?
Yeah. Well, Flow Church planted a church in Englefield Green, which is 5 minutes walk from the uni. You can't live in this area and not realise the overwhelming impact of a university. A population of about 30 people in the small town, 13,000 of them are at the university. So the impact is huge. And so for me, it wasn't so much about trying to reach students necessarily. It was trying to realise what are the influential things in the area. And the university was clearly one of them. We've been here for about 6 years, and 5 of those years we were knocking on this door, trying in different avenues to get in with the CU, trying to hire venues, trying to see if there's other ways we can interact with the uni, and nothing happened. All doors were closed. And the open door came about because we had a big event coming up in another venue, and that venue fell through. And we just out of pure chance thought, well, let's just try Royal Holloway. And then it turned out that they just at that moment employed somebody to rent out their SU venues. And so for the first time ever, we were able to hire a venue here, and this door opened. We did a Sunday morning church service there. And while we were here, we really felt this sense of this wasn't just about our church, that we were opening a door for the other churches to engage with. So we started a prayer and worship night at the beginning of 2024, and we invited other churches to come. And the engagement, the unity, the movement of it has been more than I hoped for. 12 churches now connected from all over the area. CU connected, students growing, churches growing. Yeah, it's been exciting. But in the past 2 events that we've run here, we've seen students give their life to Jesus on campus, which for me is the real exciting thing there. On campus, not at a church gathering somewhere else. On the campus, we're literally being sent to a place and seeing people saved at that place. Not just saying, well, hey, now come to our church event. No, seeing them saved where they're at. And that is really exciting to me. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that it's taught the church to realize that we need to be mobilized, that we need to keep moving. I like to tell our church that we're not jacuzzi church. We are flow church. There is power in the flow. You know, Ezekiel 47 talks about the river of God, but it's a flowing river. And it says if you don't flow, you turn into a swamp in Ezekiel 47. Our church needs to keep moving, and we don't need to wait till we have a gathering of students at our place to impact student life. By moving as saints, we can impact these areas around us. And so that's what I think it's meant for us. It's really been a local mission for us. It's been exciting for our church. It's felt adventurous. It's felt like an exploit, a great exploit of the Lord, like we're doing something together. And I love the fact that we haven't waited until we go, well, now we have a ministry of 30 students, we better do something on campus. No, we've seen it as an influential, thing in the community, and we felt like we want to go there and impact it for the name of Jesus. So that, I think, is really exciting for us.
So, I mean, I used to work for the council. I worked there for a couple of years, so I obviously got to know a number of the councillors. And I always knew that God had sent me there. I didn't feel like I needed to leave the job I was in, but felt that He wanted me to be in the council, and that there was a purpose for me being there. And it was about, how do I impact local community? How do I actually make a difference? And after being there 2 years, I knew I had to move, I had to leave. There was a lot of issues at work, I was very unhappy. And actually part of me leaving felt incredibly sad, because I thought, well, what was that about? I felt like God had told me to go there, and I almost felt like I was leaving unfinished business. It was literally a couple of days before I was about to go on holiday. My phone rang, my mobile rang, and it was a counsellor that I'd, got to know when I'd been working there. I don't know how he got my number. It was so out of the blue. And then he explained that sadly somebody that was a ward councillor had passed away, and therefore they needed to have a by-election. And he was sitting there thinking, I need a candidate, and I came to mind, and he said, would you stand as a councillor? And as I said, I was just about to go on holiday, and I was like, I need to think about this. And I came back from holiday and I just thought, no way, this is ridiculous. I've got 3 kids, a full-time job, I'm pastoring a church. The last thing I need to do is become a counsellor. But what I have learned over the years is, I know often when it is God, when you think it's probably a bad idea. It's like, you're like, this isn't my idea. And there was something about the fact that it had come out of the blue. When something comes out of the blue like that and you're not expecting it, you have to kind of slightly weigh it before you dismiss it. You have to think, well, okay, why has this come my way? What's this opportunity about? So I agreed to it, and it came about. I had no idea what was coming my way. I understood what councillors did. I'd been in committee meetings, but suddenly this kind of election machine began starting up. And I was told I needed to think about what my key points to the people of Addlestone would be. What is it I want to stand for? What do I want to change? And asking to have photos of me taken, and create leaflets and literature, and start getting political. And I was like, what have I done? Genuinely thought, what have I done? If this is of God, a bit like that bit in the Bible where I think it's one of the religious leaders says, well, if this is of God, then it'll be okay. So be it. It's almost like, why are you trying to stop them preaching? And then the count started to happen, and I couldn't even watch. Like, the dean was in the room there, watching, doing all the counting and stuff. And then they announced the result, and I'd won by a mile. And I was like, and instead of joy, instead of happiness, I thought, oh no. What do you want me to do, God? Because you're clearly in this. So it kind of went from jubilation to, feeling very kind of daunting and just overwhelming quite quickly. I've been a pastor for Addlestone now for, coming up nearly 3 years, and there's still quite a lot of days I wake up and I go, God, what am I doing? Why have you asked me to do this? And the same thing is, I've only been a counsellor for a couple of months, if that, and, been to a few meetings, and it's like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing here. But what was really interesting is that all of this happened, the phone call asking me to stand as a counsellor, all of this came as we were looking at the story of Esther. And I know it's a well-known verse, but this kind of, you were called for such a time as this. And the fact that Esther, this kind of, very simple person, got thrust from being a nobody to being thrust into the king's court, to suddenly becoming this really important person who ended up having to kind of be the person that stopped the Israelites getting kind of massacred. And you never stop and think, well, I'm pretty sure there's times where she's like, what am I doing? I just came from a simple village. There's nothing special about me. And it's that same thing. It's that sometimes you just need to know you're in the right place rather than why you're in that place. And I feel that's the same for being a pastor, the same for being a counsellor. I know I'm in the right place. I can't tell you why I'm in that place yet.
I was working in an office at the church that I used to go to, and so we used to get notifications about churches together prayer. They had a monthly prayer meeting, and this particular month they said they were going to be going into the prison chaplaincy and doing the prayer meeting there. So as soon as I saw that, I just felt something in my heart, I've got to go to that prayer meeting. So myself and another member of staff, we both signed up to go. I spoke to the guy who was the head chaplain at the time, and I said, what's the possibility of coming in here to do volunteer work? And he was just so excited because he said God had told him that day that there would be 2 women who would come and ask him if they could volunteer in the prison. So that was an open door, and it was so of the Lord because it's not very easy to get in. You can go as a visitor or something like that, but to go in to actually work in the prison with the women is, it had to be God really who opened that door. And the first time I went in there, I went to an evening service because I was working at the time, but so I used to go in the evening after work, and I think, just God just confirmed in my heart, that's where he wanted me to be. Yeah, well, there's a current lady there, and she'd been really put off Christianity. She'd experienced it, but negative side, hypocrisy and all this kind of thing, and she really hated Christians. Anyway, she's in Bronzefield now, and she was looking into all these other religions like Islam, Buddhism and all this, and she said, I think I want to follow Islam. And at that moment, like the chaplain there, the Anglican chaplain, just happened to walk into her cell, and she just took that as a sign that she should be following Jesus. So I built up quite a lovely connection with this woman. So just discipling her in the ways of Jesus and spending time and praying with her because she's got quite a lot of trauma going on in her life. So I get to talk to a lot of women who had serious trauma, and she's just blossoming and growing in the Lord. Going there, it's not I'm doing anything great, but I happen to be available, and it's because God has such a love for those women, and so he'll use whoever is available to carry his light. Like, I feel as though I'm just being obedient to God really, and it's more and more I realize, because I know in the natural I wouldn't have any affinity with those women, but God's given me the grace on how to, how can I say this? That I can relate to them and they respond to me. And I think it is because they sense that I really love them and I care about them. And that's all from the Holy Spirit, really.
Well, so I always knew as soon as Flo mentioned mission trips, I wanted to go and I wanted to be part of it. And this kind of stems back to end of the 80s, 90s when the Berlin Wall came down, and communism was sort of got rid of in a lot of countries, and you saw the devastation in the countries there. And I knew then I wanted to go and help people in Europe. And for years, I didn't know what that looked like until I came to Flow. And so as soon as they said mission trips, it wasn't particularly Greece, it was just mission trips. And I wanted to go to help or to go and work in Europe. So when the first trip came up, I obviously signed up for it and absolutely loved it. It just ignited something in me to want to do more mission trips. Well, this was my 5th trip now, and another great trip. The trips are very similar in lots of different ways, but also each one is unique in itself as well. The people there, I think, is what makes me keep going back. They're such humble people that just keep going with no sort of, and nobody noticing them, just under the radar. And it just feels such a privilege to help them, just in a small way. As we've been going each year, I think what has built is the trust that the church has in us. So we're left more and more to do things by ourselves. So she'll run through a list of things that need to be done while we're out there, and basically leaves us to get on with them. And she leaves us with the interaction with the refugee women as well. And even though we have a language barrier there, we always seem to be able to get through. So I think the uniqueness is this build-up of trust there. For me, the biggest impact is on the people in the church, because the refugees are all different each time you go. Gypsy camps are familiar. That's another thing that was quite interesting as well this year, was going to the gypsy camp, not just with the volunteers from the church, but with Christians from a gypsy church as well. So they came along, because the volunteers are thinner on the ground in the church. The gypsy Christians came along with us, and that was wonderful to see them as part of helping those children. I just love going to see the gypsies, the children. They're such marginalised people, and it's just so lovely to go and show some love to them. I mean, they're wild children, but it's really lovely just to go and show some love. And Eleni speaks about just the reason she does it is to give these children a bit of childhood, arts and crafts and games, and then she shares the gospel with them. It's taught me reliance on him, it's taught me patience, it's taught me humility, because when you're in Greece and you're working with people there's many times you think, oh, I could do this much better, but it's taught me to just value people and see them for who they are and respect them for who they are. And yeah, so I think it's definitely rubbed off some corners on me for sure. Yeah.
That's really good.
We did end up going to Sweden twice in 2023, and then we went to sort of serve them for a weekend in February last year, spoke to some youth, spoke with their church, and it just went really well, really good connection. They invited us back for the Bible Week, so I went to speak at the Bible Week last year.
And during that time as well, from that February to July, we had quite regular contact with Marcus and Ellen. They were very relational in their, like, wanting to build relationship with us, and we did a lot of like FaceTimes with them as well.
Yeah, just a natural friendship was born, really. We've always wanted to go on a long-term mission trip. We realise it's the sort of next step in growing in missions. You know, you do a lot of short terms, but at some point you've got to go there for a bit longer, eventually plant, eventually move people, all those kind of things. So for us, it was just that step forward to keep us moving as a church. And I was invited to speak at the Bible camp, and the year before I had been invited to some other churches, but didn't have the time to fit it in. So I thought, oh, maybe if we go this time, Sweden's an easier place for us to take the family to start with. We know we're going to be at this Bible Week for a lot of it, you know, and then I can go see those other churches that wanted to connect. So it felt like just a really good time for us to try it in the summer. Yeah. And so we went for it the whole of July.
The whole fam.
The whole fam, including mother-in-law, Nana Jules.
I mean, for us, we found that doing a long-term mission trip, we realised these are important because of the relationships you get to build that you just don't get if you go for a long weekend. You know, the amount of houses we got to go to, the tables we got to sit around, the meals we got to have with people, and then pray. and worship in people's homes. Like, we did more of that really than typical church event.
Yeah.
And that for us really highlighted the importance of long-term mission trips.
Well, and it was the highlight of our trip.
Yeah.
The most powerful ministry moments we had were around dinner tables in people's homes.
And those made a real lasting impact. Like, you know, I feel like I can't wait to get back to Sweden, because I know there's relationships there that I'm so looking forward to developing, because you got to really invest in people and get to know them, and there feels like a whole crew of friends over there that we're just like waiting until we can see again.
Yeah.
You know, and see how the kids are doing and catch up on life together. So it feels like we've created a community in another nation that will now be really easy to go and connect back into whenever we go again.
But what going there long term forces us to do is to fall in love with people.
Yeah.
And that is really good for the soul. It's really good for us to make sure we don't just fly in and say, we're the special speakers, we come and do our bit, and then we fly out again. But actually to fall in love with the nation, to hear about it, what's the struggles, and actually I think that makes us better ministers, because we truly love the people, we know their stories, we know their backgrounds, we also want the nations facing. And so when we're able to preach, I think we preach from a lot more authentic place, and I think that helps people receive the message of Jesus in a different way. So for me, there is a sanctification part of this as well. There is a desire to stay and keep and grow humility, and so for me, that's partly why I've done that. Yeah.
I think sometimes we're very quick to almost stereotype what a sent one looks like. You know, when I was growing up, what if someone said to me, what's a sent one? I'll be like, oh, it's the people that are, you know, go to Africa and do missions. Or, you know, oh, it's the really kind of confident ones that go and plant a church, or this, that, and the other. And I think you kind of create these almost caricatures of what sent ones should look like. And so what that does is it enables you to kind of dismiss yourself and say, well, that's not me. That's not me. You know, but actually, I believe that we're all called to be sent ones. You know, God hasn't asked anyone to sit at the back of a church and do nothing. That's not what we're called to do. We're all called to do something. And I think what this Sent One series is really showing is actually everyone has something to bring. Everything has something to give. Everyone has a plan and purpose on their life. And actually it's more about working out, where do you want me, God? What do you want me to do?
Well, what I've noticed, I think, is when people are willing to say yes, that changes something in them. And it, I've seen people have obstacles or things that might be in the way, but when they say yes, it changes something in them in that moment, and then changes something in them whilst they're there as well. So I just think I would just encourage people. I know there's things in life and I know people may look at me and think, well, you're retired, you've got all the time in the world. I wasn't retired when I first started going on mission trips. I was working full time. And I would just encourage people, because what it develops in you yourself, and also, I don't know, the benefits, the benefits to you on a level of social level with people in the church, but also with God and your relationship with God. Yeah, I think it's something I would encourage people to do.
Wouldn't it be really interesting if you go to church on Sunday, but there's like loads of less people there, and when you go, where is everybody today? They go, they're all being sent. You know, because I thought about remembering this year that we sent a whole team to prison, and to do a great ministry in prison, and hearing great stories of that. But it meant that the Sunday was impacted, that there was less people there on a Sunday. And in a couple of weeks, 11 of us from Flow Church and 19 from other churches from Nigeria. So 30 of us are going to be going to Albania, which means that Flow Church that Sunday will have a lot less people there. But I almost love the fact, it's like, where is everyone today? Well, they're being sent. They're doing the stuff. Not just hearing about doing the stuff, they're doing the stuff. And so, yeah, I think a future for me would be that, yeah, it almost feels like when Flow Church has a Sunday, it's like, where are you meeting today? It's like, well, all over. We're going to be in an office today. We're going to be at a school today. We're going to be in a prison today. We're going to be in 3 nations today. We're going to be in these locations, in these community halls. It's not that there's just this one big building or you've got to draw to there. But actually, where's Flow Church? Man, we're everywhere today. That would be sort of the heart I'm having towards being sent.
I think to just keep remembering this whole idea that Liam's has taught into most of this sent one being a mindset, and that you can wake up wherever you are in whatever situation, and you can wake up with a purpose, and you can go with a destiny into your day if you have that I'm a sent one mindset. You won't feel lost. You won't feel like you're wasting your days. You won't feel like you've got no purpose. You won't feel like you're drifting through life. You won't feel like you're not doing anything or making a difference. If you really take that and say, I am a sent one, and therefore I have a mission to do, you'll have purpose everywhere. And we will see the kingdom of God change families, homes, workplaces, neighborhoods, shops, our church, if we all grab hold of that.